There's nothing you can do. I have that kind of job. He snapped the last clasp on the backpack and put it on, trying to make the heaviness evenly lay on his shoulders. I do not understand why those who pilot the messengers cannot get acquainted with the situation on the spot, to help you at least something, perhaps give some idea of what awaits you there. I think it's not fair. Everyone is fair, he said, trying to restrain himself. He pulled a little tighter a strap on his left shoulder. Her appearance here, just in the last minutes before his departure on the mission, did not cause him delight, but if she conceived something, it was not easy to stop her. Once again, he patiently explained to her the state of affairs. During flights to the stars, reconnaissance ships turn into traps for those who pilot them. They can hardly at least survive. They have their own specifics of work. To survive in long flights, a special inclination to them is necessary. Few people have it. At the same time, it is those qualities that help adapt to long flights that are completely unsuitable for the study of planets. Therefore, all that is required from the pilots is to establish highly sensitive equipment and photorelay, and then to ensure the delivery of zero transmitter screens on an unmanned brake rocket in some suitable place on the planet. And even before the zero transmitter touches the surface and sends a signal of a safe landing, they are heading to another star system. Well, they did their job. Now it's my turn.
"Are you ready, Specialist Langley?" asked the man who looked into the room at that moment. "Almost," Langley responded, hating himself for feeling relief at the sight of the violator of their solitude. "Mechanic Mir, this is my wife, Carice. It's a great honor for me, the wife of Carissa. You should be proud of your husband." Mir was a young, smiling man of pleasant appearance. One of his smiles could be assumed that he spoke sincerely. Slightly shifted headphones and a rigidly fixed microphone around the lips indicated that he briefly interrupted his communication with the computer. "Yes, honor," said Carissa, unable to resist the remark, "but not the eternal. We are engaged for the first time, and the life of our life together expires in a few days, during the absence of a husband." "Wonderly," Mir replied, has not heard the bitterness in her words, "but you will be looking forward to the minute he finally comes back. Not a bad reason for the party. I'm starting, Specialist." "Perhaps," said Langley, and his fingertips raised the flask, checking if it was full. In order not to interfere, Carissa silently leaned against the wall of an uncomfortable office. The reconciliation of the checklist began, and the men were not up to her. The computer whispered his questions directly into the ear of the mechanic, and he repeated them aloud, involuntarily copying the monotonous and dispassionate intonations of the mechanism. The computer, not it, completely absorbed the attention of both men, so similar to each other in their dark green uniforms against the background of almost the same green walls. Her silver-orange suit was somehow out of place here, and she mechanically took a step towards the exit. After browsing the checklist, the computer fully approved it. A little more time took the necessary adjustment of Langley equipment. The equipment consisted of a metal harness equipped with a power drive and serving to support his body. The harness was perfectly fitted along the Langley figure, something like a flexible outer skeleton. The skeleton was articulated with the joints of the host and could bend and rotated freely following any movements. Since the support linings were an integral part of the uniform and the tractions painted in the tone of the fabric were quite thin, the harness was not striking. The supply of atomic energy in the backpack was enough for at least a year. "Why are you wearing this metal cage?" asked Carice. "You've never worn it before." She was forced to repeat the issue loudly before the men paid attention to her. "Due to increased gravity," her husband finally responded. "On this planet, the force of gravity is as many as 253,000 G more than the Earth. The cage, as you call it, is not able to eliminate gravity, but it is able to support me and not let me get tired too quickly." "You didn't say
anything about this planet. You didn't tell me anything at all. So there's nothing to tell. Where I go, high gravity, cold and windy. The air is normal. The sample has already been taken for analysis. Only the oxygen is a little more. In any case, it is quite suitable for breathing. And beasts? Wild animals? What about them? Are they not dangerous? We don't know yet, but as far as we know, the planet is quite peaceful. He lied to her, but he had no right to tell the truth. On the recently discovered planet, settlers from Earth were discovered. Information about this immediately fell into the category of classified. It was decided to make public only after the official assessment of the report, which he will submit upon return. I'm ready, Langley said, pulling the gloves. I don't want to linger. I'd like to go inside this suit soon. And the costume temperature is maintained on the same level, the specialist Langley. You should be comfortable in it.
He knew it himself. He just couldn't wait to leave. Carice should have come here. Imagine that I'm just going to the periphery. From here, that place seems to be so... He reassured his wife, holding her hands and kissing her quickly. As soon as time appears, I will send you a letter. He loved her immensely, but not here and not now when he was going on a mission. The heavy door closed behind its back, fenced off both of them from Carice, and Langley immediately felt relief. He will finally be able to concentrate on his mission. The message has been transmitted, the mechanic said, when they opened a powerful triple door, entered the booked room for zero crossing. Additional samples of soil and vegetation are needed. They were also asked to bring samples of water and life forms, but the last two orders can be encouraged. It will be done, said Langley, and the mechanic gave his response to the microphone. You want success, a specialist? Said the mechanic dispassionately and added with a trembling voice. And so am I. I was honored to help you during this transition. He covered the microphone with his hand. I study the course of a specialist, and I read all your reports. I think what you did. His words were a violation of the established order, and for this he could be punished. I know what you want to say, Mechanic Mayor, and I wish you all the best. Langley held his hand, and he, shaking, shook her. And although the young man did not say a word, Langley was touched. It always had the oppressive cold of a zero camera, where a step could not be set so as not to stumble upon any television camera or a samp of throttle valves. And not at all because he was eager for solemn wires on the task with the orchestra and flags. At such a moment, he had enough heat of a simple human touch. Well, goodbye, he said, and turning away from Mayor, touched the switch on the control panel, thereby launching the planned zero transition program. The lattice design of the camera disappeared, and instead of it there was a gray, wet emptiness operating in the working mode of the Bhattacharya field. Without any hesitation, Langley stepped into it. With incredible force, he twisted, dragged forward, and threw face down. He machinically pulled his hands in front of him. Preservative tractions on the wrists literally fired forward, as if elongating their hands. When in contact with the ground, the tractions formed like a telescope, which of course softened the impact. If it weren't for them, the hands and the wrists would surely have broken. And yet, despite their invaluable help, from the severe compression of the supporting linings of Langley took his breath. Standing on all fours, he frantically absorbed the air, which turned out to be so cold that his mouth immediately burned and his eyes teared up. However, the uniform was warm. The heating worked immediately after the shock impact of the cold atmosphere on its thermoelectric elements. He raised his eyes. A man looked at him, a wide-seated, tightly hit man with a payable black beard. It had clothes of fur and leather coincided in the eyes with a red color. His fingers firmly held a short, pointed garlic, no longer than forearm. The man moved, and Langley only now realized that he was standing and not sitting as it seemed at first. He was so squat and wide that it looked like some kind of truncated. However, first of all, the managers of the program need samples.
Without leaving the beard of a wary look, he pulled a container for samples from the side compartment of his backpack and put it on the ground. The earth was hard, but fortunately everything was in folds and furnaces like dried dirt on the roads. He broke off a fair piece of this dirt and threw it into the middle of the red plastic disc. After 10 seconds, during which the reaction of chemicals in the composition of the air and disc, the edges of the latter bent inside and tightly closed around the piece of soil.
The man threw the dart into the other hand and watched with his eyes. Langley filled the soil with 2 more containers, then moved several feet and 3 other containers with grass and branches from bushes on which the leaves were weakly trembled. The samples were enough to consider their mission to collect them completed. Trying not to turn his back on the man, he backed up, bypassing the damaged remains of the brake engines of the rocket until he was stuck in the screen of a zero transmitter. He was in working mode but was not focused. Anyone who would enter the screen at this moment would simply spray gamma rays in the Bhattacharya space. The screen will not start to work until Langley presses his hand to a special plate on the frame, thereby sending an encode signal to the receiving device. No one but it could make the screen function. He touched the plates and threw the samples inside. Now you can do more important things. Peace, he said, turning to the man and spread his hands forward to his hands. The man did not react to his words, except that he lifted the dart when Langley tried to step towards him. Langley returned to the starting position and he lowered the dart. Just in case, Langley decided not to make unnecessary movements. Decided to apply a strategy of waiting, right? You want to talk to me while we are waiting? He did not receive an answer to the appeal and not expected to hear it. In this case, what or who do you wait for? Probably your buddies. And this already speaks about the organization, which in itself sounds very encouraging. Here you do not have a settlement. That's why the zero transmitter was lowered here. You examined him, of course, but nevertheless he remained a mystery to you, and you decided to put him guard. I assume you have already informed your own of my arrival, even though I haven't seen it because I fell face down. The surroundings were suddenly declared a piercing gnashing that comes because of the slope of the road. The terrible grinning gradually grew. Langley watched with interest as if from the ground, slowly with great difficulty, a tightly knocked down group of bearded people surprisingly similar to his guard grew rapidly. All of them were involved in a strange kind of cart on 3 pairs of wooden wheels. Their axis, in all likelihood unsaturated, was published an unbearable gnashing. The cart was a platform where a man in clothes made of bright red leather sat on a soft litter. The upper part of his face was hidden in a metal helmet with observation slits. A long grey beard fell on the chest. In his right hand, the man held a long cutting knife with a narrow blade. Slowly getting off the cart, he pointed a knife at Langley, and a hoarse, sharp voice said something illegible. "I'm sorry, but I don't understand you," said Langley.
The words sounded so striking to the old man that he unwittingly went back and almost dropped the weapon. At the same time, the people accompanying him sat down and threateningly exhibited darts. Their leader expressed disapproval of these actions and shouted something. Gave the order, understood Langley. The darts immediately went down. Convinced that the order was strictly executed, the old man turned to Langley and slowly spoke, carefully selecting the words. "I didn't know. I didn't think I'd ever hear that language say. I can only read it." The accent was quite strange, but the old man expressed quite clearly. "It's wonderful. I will definitely study your language, and now I can talk to my... Who are you, and what's the thing here? She fell at night with a terrible noise. How did you get here?" Langley spoke slowly, clearly highlighting every word. His speech, of course, was prepared in advance. "I came here with a friendly greeting from my people. With this machine that you see in front of you, we travel long distances. We're not from this world. We will help you in many ways, and how, now I will tell you more. We can treat the sick and heal them. We will give you food if you are hungry. I'm here alone, and without your permission, no one but me will come here.
In exchange for our help, we would like you to answer the questions I will ask you. When we get answers to the questions, we, in turn, will answer any questions that you have." Widely placing his legs, the old man listened tensely to every word and unaccountably drove a knife blade on his toe, as if he ruled in a donkey. "What do you want here? What are your true intentions, desires?" "I have medicines with me and I can treat patients. I can supply you with food. I'm just asking you to answer my questions, nothing more." Under the dense long mustache, the lips of the old man was formed in a distrustful grin. "I see. Do as you said or do nothing." He turned and climbed heavily on the car that sparkled under him. "Do you have a name?" "Langley, yeah." "I will be happy to accompany you." A long string of the procession slowly passed through the crest of the hill and began to descend into a shallow hollow. And although there was quite a bit of a few, some quarter of a mile, Langley is deadly tired. After all, resisting increased gravity, his heart and lungs worked with a double load. "Wait a minute," he said, finally exhausted. "Let's take a break."
Bacurnitus raised his hand and gave a short order. The procession stopped, and people immediately sat in the thick grass. Most of them could not even sit and stretched impotently to all the height. Langley unfastened the flask and greedily swallowed from it. Bacurnitus closely watched his every move. "Do you want some water?" asked Langley, handing him a flask. "I really want," replied the old man, and taking a flask in his hands, carefully examined her before drinking it. "The water is very different from ours. What metal is this vessel?" "I think it's made of aluminum or one of its alloys." Should I have answered this question? Of course, the question was quite harmless. However, you can never predict. He may not have had to answer, but he was so tired that this problem, frankly, did not care. Bearded people closely followed him closely, and the closest one even stood up, not bringing his eyes off his flask. "I'm sorry," said Langley, noting his red eyes reddened by fatigue, and pulled the flask. "Would you like to swallow either?" A man hesitated for a moment, and Bacurnitus shouted something hoarsely. He stretched out his hand and grabbed the flask with a quick movement, but instead of drinking, turned and rushed to run. The runner out of it was important. Langley, completely confused, saw the old man rushing after the fugitive and on the handle plunged his long knife in his back. No one even moved when he stabbed in the back and collapsed hard to the ground. He lay on his side, looking to nowhere. From the mouth flowed